Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajagana Ranjana Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajagana Ranjana Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Vallabha Girivaradham Yasodanandana Vrajagana Ranjana Jana Vrajagana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajagana Ranjana Nana Vrajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Bhagavacharya Satarya, such a Shishi Mad His Divine Grace, H.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Gauda Vaishnavinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Sako Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki, ISKCON Founder Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shishi Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun, Radhakun, Giri Govardhan Ki, Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mayapur Dham Ki, Navadvip Dham Ki, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Jamuna Mai Ki, Gangamai ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakta Devi ki, Shishi Radha Golokananda ki, Samaveda Bhaktarinda ki, Gora Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhaktarinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhaktarinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhaktarinda. So we're continuing our reading of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're in Madhya Lila, chapter 9. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu travels to the holy places, and we are at just finishing up the story where Lord Chaitanya meets this Brahmin who reads the Bhagavad Gita, but was illiterate. Not only he considered himself illiterate, but he was very humble. And his humility and his Lord Chaitanya bestowed upon him his mercy, and actually told him he was the greatest understander of the Bhagavad Gita. He understood Bhagavad Gita, even though he couldn't read it. He could only could vision his Krishna being the chariot driver for Lord Chaitanya, for Arjuna. So that story, we just finished that story. Now we're continuing on. We're on text 107. It says that Brahma became a great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and for 4 months he did not give up the Lord's company. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at the house of Vaikanath Bhatt and constantly talked with him about Lord Krishna. In this way, he was very happy. So, Om Aganda Tamarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakra Om Tamdena Taismai Shri Gurave Namaha. So for 4 months, that means remember it was this Chakramas at this time. This is where he was when he stopped traveling. So at this 4 months of the rainy season, yogis and sannyasis who travel to holy places, wherever they're at, they stop. This is because it's very difficult to rain, sometimes during monsoons and very heavy rain. So now he's at Vaikanath Bhatt's house, who's the father of Gopal Bhatt, which we'll find out here. Being a Vaishnav in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Venkata Bhatt worshipped the deities of Lakshmi and Narayan. Seeing his pure devotion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. Constantly associating with each other, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Venkata Bhatt gradually developed a friendly relationship. Indeed, sometimes they laughed and joked together. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the Bhattacharya, "Your worshipful goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. However, my Lord is Lord Sri Krishna, a cowherd boy who is engaged in tending cows. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord?" Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha, and for a long time accepted vows and regulated principles and performed unlimited austerities. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. Even the goddess of fortune, for this end, performed austerities for centuries giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity. Purport. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 16, Text 36, was spoken by the wives of the Kaliya serpent. And we can easily have that understanding about everybody who gets Krishna's mercy. How did they get mercy? What do I have to do to get there also? And even those who don't appear to be worthy, like the Kaliya serpent, got the mercy. Putana got mercy. How can I get mercy? Of course, we know because the recipe has been given us. Prabhupada gave us the recipe. He gave us all the ingredients, told us how to cook. And if we do it according to the recipe, then we'll get the prasad. Prasad means mercy. Yasha prasad. Vaikanta and said, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. Well, of course, Krishna kills these demons, but it's kind of interesting. We know that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So how does he kill demons if he never leaves Vrindavan? And it also describes in the Chaitanya, in the Adi Lila, that Krishna doesn't kill demons. Right? So there seems to be a little bit of... He expands himself. He doesn't leave. He doesn't kill demons in Vrindavan. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we read that when he deals with demons, he doesn't kill them. They become submissive to a certain extent, whether it's Keshava, Arisasura, Kaliya. They appear there, but they all eventually surrender before it ever gets to that point. So we're at 116. Since Krishna and Narayan are the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna does not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. Purport. This is the answer to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's question. And from this, we can understand that Vaikanta Bhatt knew the truth. He told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Narayan is a form of Krishna associated with transcendental opulence. Although Krishna is two-armed and Narayan four-armed, there is no difference in the person. They are one and the same. Narayan is as beautiful as Krishna, but Krishna's pastimes are more sportive. It is not that the sportive pastimes of Krishna make him different from Narayan. Lakshmi's desire to associate with Krishna was perfectly natural. In other words, it is understandable that a chaste woman wants to associate with her husband in all his different dresses. Therefore, one should not criticize Lakshmi for wanting to associate with Krishna. So Prabhupada also uses the example is like you light a candle, and that candle you can light another candle, and it's all the same as the original candle. So when Krishna expands himself, first expands himself to Balaram, of course he separates himself and Radharani becomes from his pleasure potency, but Balaram is an expansion of Krishna. And then from Balaram you got the Chakravyuha, that's expansion. It's Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And then there's the Purushas. There's the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Karnadakshai, Garbhodakshai, and Kshirodakshai Vishnu. Kshirodakshai Vishnu is the super soul of the universe and also the super soul in every single living entity. And he also lies on the milk ocean. And Lord Chaitanya says, I was lying on the milk ocean when Nada called me to come. And so I came. So in this Adi Lila, Prabhupada talks about these expansions and the Purusha. And it is described that if one who understands this Purusha, this is in the Vedanta Sutras, that one will never take birth again. But Mayavadis take this to heart. They try to understand this Purusha, but they see it in an impersonal way. But our Acharyas and Prabhupada explain this Purushas in a personal aspect. And here we see this, that Lakshmi, in a personal way, wanted to associate. So, of course, also in the Vedanta Sutras, it says that Kshirodakshai Vishnu pulled a black hair and a white hair. One became Krishna, one became Balaram. Now, Mayavadis take that as, oh, Krishna is Maya, his body is temporary. They spin that. But, again, our Acharyas make it very clear that Krishna is the personal aspect, that he's non-different than his original Krishna that's formed, that always stays in Vrindavan, that never leaves. And it's described that this Krishna that comes, that we're reading about nowadays, is when this happens, all the avatars, all the Purushas, all the incarnations that are expanded in this universe, and we have like 21 of them, different times come up. You have Vamana Dev, Sringadev. When Krishna appears, every single one of them enter into Krishna's body. This is all discussed in the Adi Lila, in those first 6-7 chapters. It's pretty detailed in explaining how Krishna expands. The Purushas, this is their playground. Krishna always remains in the fourth dimension. He never leaves the fourth dimension. He never leaves Vrindavan. But the Purushas, they enter into three-dimensional space. This is their playground. They created these universes. And of course, we come from that expansion. We're qualitatively part and parcel. But one thing that makes us is we have this independence. That's the part of the thing that inherent in every single one of us, this independent mentality. And then how we use that independence, obviously we haven't been doing too good at it because we're still stuck in this material world. But due to the mercy of the Acharyas, we have an opportunity. And Lord Chaitanya, it describes, this is, we're emulating Lord Chaitanya, and we get into his mercy when we read the books that Prabhupada give us in Chaitanya's pastimes. So therefore we can awaken that consciousness, that storehouse of love that Lord Chaitanya has opened up. Think about you go to a warehouse and you empty it out, it's empty. But Lord Chaitanya's warehouse never empties, even though it constantly is opened up and constantly being shared and given it away. It always remains full. Okay. 117. Veganath Bhatt continued. According to transcendental realization, there's no difference between the forms of Narayan and Krishna. Yet in Krishna, there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal mellow. And consequently, he surpasses Narayan. This is the conclusion of transcendental mellows. This verse, quoted by Veganath Bhatt, is also found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.59. 118. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the rasa dance. Veganath Bhatt further explained, Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is also an enjoyer of transcendental bliss. Therefore, she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna. What is the fault? Why are you joking so about this? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I know that there is no fault on the part of the goddess of fortune, but still, she could not enter into the rasa dance. We hear this from the when Lord Chaitanya was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Lila, the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or her other consorts in the spiritual world. Nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets. Girls whose bodily luster and aroma exactly resembled the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women who may be very beautiful according to material estimation. And this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-60. So this is where we're currently reading in that part of the Bhagavatam. But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, could not enter the rasa dance? The authorities of Vedic knowledge could enter the rasa. The Vedic knowledge, let me start back up. The authorities of Vedic knowledge could enter the dance and associate with Krishna. Great sages conquer the mind and senses by practice of mystic yoga system and controlling the breath. Thus engaged in the mystic yoga, they could see the spiritual supersoul within their hearts and ultimately enter into impersonal Brahman. But even the enemies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead attain that position simply by thinking of the Supreme Lord. However, the damsels of Vraja, the gopis, being attracted by the beauty of Krishna, simply wanted to embrace him and his arms, which were like serpents. Thus the gopis ultimately tasted the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, we, Upanishads, can also taste the nectar of the lotus feet by following the footsteps of the gopis. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 87, text 23. This is the prayers of the personified Vedas, that chapter. So, for us, it's the Goswamis. The Upanishads were talking in this way. Their personalities, all these different Vedic literatures are personalities. They represent these different types of literatures. But again, this is all personal. You can see that the personal aspect. But for us, it's the Goswamis. They're the gopis that's open up, after Lord Chaitanya opened up the storehouse. They're the ones that keep giving. If we just follow their instructions, they're inviting us. One thing about an invitation, the invitation is given by Lord Chaitanya. When you get an invitation, often there's where you got to go. There's the place, there's a time, comes with the invitation. Here, this invitation has a time limit, 10,000 years of opportunity. The place to go is Krishna Loka, in Krishna's own abode. That's where we're being invited to. But that invitation it's limited to the fact after 10,000 years, which seems like a very long time, 10,000 years is like almost infinite. But if you go to the heavenly planets after this birth, you spend 100 years there, that's like 360,000 years. You come back, it's over. That 10,000 years is come and gone. You got to wait billions of years for that opportunity to come back again. Of course, the greatness, the beauty of Lord Chaitanya's mercy is the side effects. The side effects is that when you chant, everybody's going to Vaikuntha. Getting to Krishna Loka, that's a little bit, we got to work, you got to take some desire. What has Rupa Goswami said? Greed. Wherever you find it, you get it immediately, because that's what's going to open the door. An intense desire to want to be there, that's going to get us there. So, we don't want to go to the heavenly planets. For the best, if we have to come back, we just take a birth immediately in this miserable place and a family of Brahmins and just keep it going. But the best thing to do is, we have an opportunity. Don't think that, okay, it's going to be a number of births. Maybe, maybe not. But we think that sometimes we get a little displacement, so the urgency minimizes. As long as if we can keep the urgency high, that means that intensity up, and then we can utilize this birth here to the best of our ability and hope we get that mercy. We can get to that point. So Lakshmi Devi is trying to get there. And here we are, she can't even get there. The odds, Krishna coming to the universe, we talked about, Lord Chaitanya is here now, it's less than 1% of the time in the universe. If you take the 1,000 cycles of Brahma's day, these Kali Yugas, 1,000 times in one day, it's less than 1%. It's 0.1%. Or 0.01%. That's not much. But we're very fortunate. The point is, we get to understand how fortunate it is where we're at right now, and to stay here in the association of devotees, or if not this temple, another temple, always remain in the association of devotees, because it's not going to happen without that help. If we can't, we need the help. Okay, I'm going to continue reading here. Okay, so having been asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu why the goddess of fortune could not enter into the rasa dance, whereas the authorities of Vedic knowledge could, Vedanta Bhatt replied, I cannot enter into the mysteries of this behavior. Vedanta Bhatt said, I am an ordinary human being. Since my intelligence is very limited and I am easily agitated, my mind cannot enter within the deep ocean of the pastimes of the Lord. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, and you know the purport of your activities, and the person whom you enlightened can also understand your pastimes. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his pastimes cannot be understood by blunt material senses. One has to purify the senses by rendering transcendental loving service unto the Lord. When the Lord is pleased and reveals himself, one can understand the transcendental form, name, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad 2.23 and Mukunda Upanishad 3.2.3. Yam evasya vrinute tena labhyas tashyahisa atma vinevrite tanu svam. Anyone who is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead can understand his transcendental qualities, form, and pastimes. He addresses him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but actually Lord Chaitanya did not like to be talked to as addressed in that way. He would cover his ears. And Prabhupada, he wanted to experience this as a devotee. He wanted to taste that nectar, devotional service, what he's encouraging every one of us to engage in. He wants to taste that. And he wants to bring us to that level of what he is experiencing, that he saw his disciples experiencing. And of course, we have a lot of people who claim to be Bhagavan. They might have some mystical power, Prabhupada said, but they have to be tested. Like Arjuna tested Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Show me your universal form. Here, Lord Chaitanya is not claiming to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas a lot of unscrupulous people try to make that claim. So here, the Lord is not saying that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not putting that forward. So by following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Vrajaloka or Goloka Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. However, in that planet, the inhabitants do not know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There, someone may accept him as a son and sometimes bind him to a grinding mortar. Someone else may accept him as an intimate friend, attaining victory over him, playfully mount his shoulders. The inhabitants of Brajabhumi know Krishna as the son of Maharaj Nanda, the king of Brajabhumi. And they consider that they can have no other relationship with the Lord in the rasa of opulence. One who worships the Lord by following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Brajabhumi attains him in the transcendental planets of Vraja, where he is known as the son of Maharaj Nanda. The inhabitants, purport, the inhabitants of Brajamumi, or Goloka Vrindavan, know Krishna as the son of Maharaj Nanda. They do not accept him as the supreme personality of Godhead, as people in general do. The Lord is the supreme maintainer of everyone and the chief personality among all personalities. In Vrajabhumi, Krishna is certainly the central point of love, but no one knows him there as the supreme personality of Godhead. Rather, a person may know him as a friend, son, lover, or master. In any case, the center is Krishna. The inhabitants of Brajabhumi are related to the Lord in servitude, friendship, parental love, and conjugal love. A person engaged in devotional service may accept any one of these transcendental relationships, which are known as mellows. When such a person reaches the perfectional stage, he returns home back to Godhead in his pure spiritual identity. That's pretty. So we talked about how we have this independence. So we're right here, Prabhupada said, we can pick one of these. In a sense, we're picking it. It's a natural affinity to one of these types of relationships. So it happens gradually. It's like it's an internal thing that develops. Of course, in our sampradaya, they're all gopis, and we're kind of being funneled into one particular direction, and it seems, because their gopis come and associate with us. We can, help you, and that's what it's going to take. So this is the benefit. Of course, there's two types of Tasha. The Paramatma Sandarbha, text 47. It describes that two types. One are eternal. They live in the Vaikuntha. These all come from Balaram. When Krishna, we talked about, expands to Chakravyuha, he gets the whole, this is the of course, there also this, everything's eternal. There's no beginning, but at the same time, it's explained how things expanded. Same time, when this Chakravyuha, also all the support mechanism is expanded with it. Balaram expands this jiva, this nityasiddhas. And then from Karnadaksha Vishnu, the other Tatastha Shakti comes. And those are us who are eternally conditioned in this material world. But what we have is this independence that's described. And so therefore we can develop a particular rasa with the Supreme Personality of Godhead if we choose to do that. That's independence. We can choose it or don't choose to do it. But we can choose also to develop it in a particular way. And oftentimes that comes with the association that we have. It has an impact on that. A lot of things have a different impact on that, but association. I mean, the books we got from the acharyas are extremely descriptive in the relationship that Krishna has with the gopis, Krishna has with the cowherd boys, Krishna has with Mother Yasoda. So therefore, the attractiveness is there. So this, and Prabhupada in Adya Lila, again, another purport there, he talked about that those individuals who tell you that we shouldn't be reading these books of the acharyas are considered false devotees. He says it right in the purport. That he was always about revealing the books of these Goswamis. But at the same time, that's why we have a spiritual master, so he can help us navigate through this literature. If you're lucky enough to have a personal relationship with a senior devotee, they can help you. If they know your personality, they can help you navigate through this literature. Of course, we're always told that there's certain literature that we have to be very careful about reading. In a sense, unless you're really advanced, you shouldn't read certain literatures. And so those also, that information comes from the acharyas. But the information is so vast that it creates such an attraction, because Krishna is the all-attractive personality. So it's revealed by these acharyas. Okay. 132. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then quoted, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Mother Yasoda, is accessible to those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service. He is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by austere austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self." One more thing here in Prabhupada's previous purport, he talked about how when such a person reaches the perfectional stage, this is bhava, then you can go to that universe where Krishna's pastimes are going on, because it's going on in numerous universes, and then you can go into the one, you can take birth in that universe, and then you can have that relationship with Krishna based on what you've developed up to that point in time. Whatever you've attained, one of these 5 relationships, and you've perfected that desire, those senses become purified. Then we take birth. That happens at the stage, that perfection stage is a stage of bhava. And then we can attain Krishna's prema when we go, Krishna will bestow his mercy, final mercy. Okay, so that verse is from the Madhya-lila 8:222. It's quoted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 9, text 21. Text 133. The authorities in Vedic literature who are known as Shruti Ganas worship Lord Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis and follow in their footsteps. Purport. The authorities of the Vedic literature who are known as Shruti Ganas desired to enter into Lord Krishna's rasa dance. Therefore they began to worship the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis. In the beginning, however, they were unsuccessful when they could not enter the dance simply by thinking of Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis. They actually accepted bodies like those of the gopis. They even took birth in Vrajabhumi, just like the gopis, and consequently became engrossed in the ecstasy of the gopis. Gopis' love. In this way, they were allowed to enter into the Rasa Lila dance of the Lord. Practice, 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 it says. It's not to go long, he says in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, practice culminates in perfection. We have to practice, practice, practice. It's the only way we'll achieve it. Text 134. The personified authorities in the Vedic hymns acquired bodies like those of the gopis and took birth in Vrajabhumi. In those bodies, they were allowed to enter into the Lord's Rasa Lila dance. Lord Krishna belongs to the cowherd community, and the gopis are the dearmost lovers of Krishna. Although the wives of the citizens of the heavenly planets are most opulent within the material world, neither they nor other women in the material world can acquire Krishna's association. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, wanted to enjoy Krishna and at the same time retain her spiritual body in the form of Lakshmi. However, she did not follow in the footsteps of the gopis in her worship of Krishna. Because if you're a gopi, you gotta milk cows, you gotta make patties of stool patties, you gotta put up with dust, Krishna's dust. So you gotta get married, right? So this is like the deal breaker for Lakshmi. If you want to do this, you're gonna have to get married. And then these are all the gopis. And then you can hopefully hear that flute and get out of the house. We talked about you don't make Krishna wait. If you get that opportunity, you leave immediately, regardless of what condition you're in, what you're doing at that point. You get out of there. Any hesitation, you could be held back, because some of the gopis didn't make it. They had some slight little bit of desire that hasn't quite left them, so they were held back from going. We read that story. They were held back. Later, they gave up that material, that mentality, like they left that body, and they became fully spiritual and was able to later join Krishna. At that point, there shouldn't be any hesitation. But still, always the danger is always there. And that's the story of Jud Bharat. He had the deer. We have to be careful of what kind of deers we have in our life. Right? He attained Baba. But that one little attachment. So how many deers do we have in our life that are holding us back? We have to deal with that. Okay, so text 137. Any comments at this point? Anybody want to say something? We've got a couple of minutes. Text 137. Vasudev, the supreme authority on Vedic literature, composed the verse beginning with Nayam Sukhapo Bhagavan. Because no one can enter into the Rasa Leela dance in any body other than that of a gopi. Purport. This confirms the verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 25. Yanti Deva Varat Devam Pitrin Yati Priti Vrata Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Mad Yajnino Mi Mam. The Supreme Lord said, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship the ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. In the material world, every conditioned soul changes its material body again and again. But when the spirit soul is purified of all material coverings, there is no longer any chance of his accepting a material body. Such a soul then remains in his original spiritual identity, a state that is possible to achieve only by understanding Krishna in truth, the practice of Krishna consciousness. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 9, Gyanma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvata tvakva deham puner janma naiti mam iti so Arjuna. One who knows knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take its birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Only the original spiritual body can he enter into the spiritual kingdom. As far as the Rasa Leela pastimes of the Lord are concerned, it is futile for one who is within the material world to attempt to imitate the Lord's dances. One has to attain a spiritual body like that of a gopi to enter in the pastimes of the Rasa Leela. In the Nayam Sukhapo verse, the devotees are referred to as bhaktimat, that is, fully engaged in devotional service and devoid of material contamination. One cannot enter into Krishna's Rasa Leela dance simply by artificially imitating it or artificially thinking oneself a Saki and dressing up like one. Krishna's Rasa Leela dance is completely spiritual. It has nothing to do with material contamination. Therefore, no one can enter into this pastime by artificial material means. That is the instructions of the Nayam Sukhapo verse. And it must be strictly understood. Okay. Thank you so much. All glories to Sri Guru. Stop it. Text 138. Jai.
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Enam kanvandam Maravindadalaya taksham Varhavatam samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Angani yasa sakalen Kriya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami 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 Govindam Adipurusham
Namahom Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Mutandai Srimate Bhaktivedanta Samaniti Namane Krishna Pistaya Mutandai Srimate Bhaktivedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacham Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Vasachadi Satarane Nirvisesha Vasachades Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Sivasade Gaurabhakta Vrindanaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Radha Shiva Sade Gauranga Vranda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Advaita Radha Shiva Sade Gauranga Vranda Krishna Chaitanya Jananda Radha Shiva Sade Gauranga Vranda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Advaita Radha Shiva Sade Gauranga Vranda Jananda Shri Advaita Shiva Sade Gauranga Vranda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Haji Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jaya Rat, Goloka Nana, Goloka Nana Radhe. Jaya Rat, Goloka Nana, Goloka Nana Radhe. Jaya Rat. Hey, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Shri Radhe Jai Om.
Chaito Darpana Marjanam Bhavamandavani Nirvapanam Preyakaira. I like this style. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratibanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Paramvijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti Tatrapitani Amita Smarane Akala Ehadrili Tatripa Daivam Idrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapata Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galadashrudaraya Varanam Gadgada Hridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishya Vapadaratam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatava Vidatolam Mat Prananatas Tusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will I look up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling in separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am